thrown out of college, so I hoped the game might get me in the door at some place like BioWare up in Canada, where I could work on the next Baldur's Gate. Mr. Kroll had a thin crop of oily hair, nicotine-stained teeth, his breath smelling of ashes and Listerine. "Do you know your way around guns?" He asked this in the same tone as someone might say, "Do you know the Lord?" Guns? I was the only child of two overly protective parents who hadn't even let me own a toy gun as a boy. I keep a 30-06 fully loaded in the gun cabinet. You have the keys. We've discussed the things that are not yours to touch, but the rifle you may use when the situation calls for it. If wolves come around, and they will, let them have it. You want me to give them the gun, sir? Mr. Kroll had finally let go of my hand. "Lucien," he said, his mouth crimping at the corners, as though speaking my name aloud a second time pained him. I regretted my attempt at humor. Just a little, knowing how much these old-timers hated a wise-ass. When Mr. Kroll had visited the bank on business, he preferred to be waited on by the pretty, young female tellers, especially Mora. Mora had been everyone's favorite. "Harry said you were smart before your time in the hospital, so I think you know what I mean." How much had Harry told him? And surely he knew that wolves were on the endangered species list. Mr. Kroll lowered his voice, though it was just the two of us in the foyer. "Wolves are vermin, and you are on private property. Won't anyone know what you do out here. Got it? Also, it's okay if some of my wife's plants die, but not the dog." After they left, I spent hours wandering the maze of rooms, at first careful of the old couple's privacy. My bare feet sank into lush Berber carpets the color of burgundy, and the floor seemed to slope downhill, as if the entire house was drifting toward the volcanic ridge above the river, a quarter-mile away. A spiral staircase led to a walkout on the lower level. Here, a bearskin rug splayed before a towering stone fireplace. Bay windows looked out over a grove of birches already filling up with snow. In November of 1999, a wolfish cold had settled early over the woods, shaggy with snow. It was so quiet, I swore I could hear the hush of each flake touching the ground. I could hear the thump of my heart in my ears, strong and insistent and traitorous. I only wanted to be alone, but I could feel something padding toward me in the snow, and I knew I would have to go out to meet it. I didn't know enough to be afraid yet. My mother had campaigned for me to come home to Chicago and enroll in Oakton Community College for the spring semester instead of house-sitting this place over the winter. "You'll be so far from everything," she said over the phone. "That's the whole point." "But how will you keep up with your classes?" "It's not a bad commute. Now that I'm not working 30 hours a week, I can focus better." I paused, mentally counting how many lies I'd packed in those sentences. My focus had been shattered. I missed 2 weeks of classes in the hospital, and I should have withdrawn rather than take Fs, but I let the deadline pass without doing anything. Yet I still attended. Some days I went to classes I hadn't even enrolled in, choosing random lectures on meteorology, the philosophy of Eastern religions, or astronomy, and sitting in the back taking notes. Once the registrar's office caught up with me, my time at Northern was done, but I couldn't wrap my head around why any of it was supposed to matter anymore. "You are coming home for Thanksgiving." Home? I wasn't sure where that was anymore since my parents had divorced. "We'll see, Mom." I heard her swallow on the other end of the phone line. I hated talking on the phone, the way disembodied voices floated out of the ether. She knew I wasn't coming home. I couldn't, not yet. There was something I had to do first. I was afraid she was going to start crying again. "I gotta go, Mom." The first day of the storm, I took Kaiser out for a walk, trussing my hiking boots in antique snowshoes I'd found hanging beside the French doors in the lower level.